Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL. I remain as always your 100% impartial, completely unbiased host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. A bit of an announcement to start this week. If you're liking what you hear here, but you don't want to look at this ugly mug anymore, I've managed to transfer this stuff onto a podcast. Seems to be working. The places I've been checking, it's all there, the Apple and not Spotify yet. I got to make a change to make that one work. But a lot of places you can get me on podcast if you want to do that. But if you're enjoying this, just keep on coming back here because we'll be here every week. I'll be here every week. And I think the format worked well last week, so I'm going to go back to it again. I'm going to start with a bit of an opening rant, and then I'm going to go through the games. Not a recap, because I said before, if that's what you're here, if you're looking for recaps of the games or previews of what's upcoming, betting advice, fantasy advice, there's a lot of people that are much better at doing that than I am. Go back to my first episode in the preseason and I list them all. So I'll be going through the games, but only as these are the thoughts that occurred to me during the game. And my whole thing here is, I think I've said before, is that it seems like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get talked about around the CFL in the circles that I see. And so if I'm spotting something, I'll put it out there. You can take it for whatever it's worth. And then after that, at the end, I'll have some closing thoughts again on just stuff from the week. But let's start with, how about the opening rant this week? This is really starting to get under my skin. So many people, I understand TSN has a financial interest in the league doing well. The CFL has a financial interest in the league doing well. But even people that are off on other podcasts that aren't associated with them, everybody's still pumping up, oh, what great quarterbacks we've got all over the place. And we don't. I mean, we have a few, but we don't. And the people are using the stats to pump them up. Oh, look at Macbeth. He's throwing for 300 yards every game. Yeah, and 3 losses because he's making bad decisions when it counts. Bo's back. Did you see the game on Sunday? And and even Jake, that's one thing I don't get. Throwing for 300 yards and losing a game doesn't make you a star. It probably points to some other problem somewhere within your offense. And then Bo last week, he had 380 yards. Oh, two of those were on the 2 breakdowns in the Riders' defense that between them probably went for 150 yards. So really, he was, other than playing a competent defense, he would have been under 300 yards there again. So let's just stop this. We've got to accept our league for what it is. We are an exciting league. We are a fantastic league. Quarterbacks, we're going to have to make do with some that aren't the greatest in the world. It's inevitable. You look at the NFL down south, they can't even find 32 serviceable quarterbacks to start in their games. And they're looking everywhere. And they're scooping up all the ones that used to be the CFL quarterback. I'm not going to talking back into the days of racism and whatnot. That was ridiculous. But listen to Warren Moon talk about how much he values the CFL because he came up here and they took him as a quarterback when the NFL wouldn't even consider a black quarterback. They weren't smart enough. They couldn't handle the game. And he proved himself up here and got down there and helped break that race barrier. So that's historically, but even more recently, we've gotten most of our good quarterbacks in the CFL from people that are a little bit small for what the NFL wanted. They scramble around, they improvise, they make plays with their feet. It's exciting as hell. And the NFL has steered away from it for years because of their myth that you had to be 6'3", 6'4" to be a quarterback and stand in a pocket. Now they're realizing the potential of these guys and they're taking them. So we're not seeing the new Matt Dunnigans, the new Doug Flutys. We're just not getting that. So our pipeline's been squeezed even more. But still, our game is far more exciting than the NFL. So instead of trying to convince people that it's something it's not, let's accept the fact that, we're going to have some lower end quarterbacks in the league. You just can't get away from it. And it's just so much of it is using stats to prop it up, and I don't get the stats thing. I honestly don't know. There's this new PFF, Pro Football Focus, I think, that they've been using. NFL's used it and college used it. Now the CFL's got it in there. I have no idea what they're grading out on. But it's obvious it's stats because their number one quarterback on PFF, Vernon Adams. Well, hey, Vernon is good. He's a star. He's right there. He should be it. Number two, what do you figure? Who's the next best in the league? Cody, maybe Trevor. Don't know. Maybe Zach, even if he turns it back around again. Maybe Cameron out in Toronto, a young kid that's showing well. No, none of those are number two. 2 and 3 are MBT and Jake Mayer. An 0-3 record, and a quarterback that beat a winless team to go 1-1. I don't get it. I just don't. So please, all of you out there, stop looking at the stats and saying that this is what makes a great player. Give it to me straight and appreciate the excellence we do have in the few good quarterbacks. Appreciate the coaching that manages, like Coach Dickinson in Calgary, who can get stuff out of a quarterback like, wow. Jake Mayer on any other team would be, well, what did they used to say? Dinner on Delta. He'd be gone. But Dickinson gets enough out of him with it. So let's appreciate the really great ones we've got. Let's appreciate the game and the coaching that makes it good. And just please stop blowing smoke up around my prostate there, Make it real. That's a rant. But game one, well, Ottawa at Montreal. It's a blowout. It was kind of boring just because of that. It brought a lot of people down to earth on Ottawa and Drew Brown, but they got, again, I don't know that people are giving Montreal enough credit. They are a juggernaut. They're looking good. So, like I said, not much to say on there other than this was the first game of the week, and I noticed that on their intros, during part of their intros now, CFL is replacing their voiceover where they used to have a picture of, say, well, in this case, maybe Cody Fajardo and say, Cody is leading has led Montreal to a 2-0 start. Instead of that, now they're putting it down along the bottom in text. Why? Is text something to read easier than, what if it's in the pregame? What if you're not actually paying attention to the thing? Are we as a human race evolving away from speech? I know a lot of people who tell me, don't call me, never phone me, text me. If you really have to talk to me, text me and I'll try and set up a time with you. What? Can we not talk to each other anymore? I don't quite get that. And on that view, I will have to say too, I've seen now this new on TSN Plus. I haven't actually watched TSN Plus, but I've seen the demos of the new enhanced viewing with all their stuff. Really? How it enhance? I know some people like it, but really, does it enhance your appreciation of the game, having the screen littered with all these, frankly, I don't know. I can't even find the word I'm looking for. Irrelevant facts. How fast he was running on that play, or superimposing the route trees on the field as the play goes. Do we have that many people who don't know the game and need that help? I don't know. Like I said, I know some people like it. I know it seems like, I don't know, maybe people are just like too much information coming at them from all sides and stuff like that. But I don't understand it really. I'm not willing to begrudge the people that do like it, and I do, like I say, casual fan, I can see where it might help you on the game. But the real fans that have loved this game for years and know it well, We don't need that. So please, great for streaming, great for doing that, but never ever consider bringing that stuff into the regular TSN broadcasts. It's it's just it would certainly limit my enjoyment of the game, and I doubt that I'm alone. So make it available for the people that want it, but for the rest of us, traditional broadcast view, with the little picture-in-picture of the all 24 down there that I harp for. I still think that's the one thing that's missing, because then you can really see the game and enjoy it, rather than worry about, so-and-so was running 3.5 miles an hour on that 2-yard run up the middle. Let's see. I guess that's about it for that game. Move on to the next one, BC at Winnipeg. This one was more fun. It looked like for a while. Well, first off, I should say I've got to give BC more respect. I really do. Everyone was saying they're the best team in the league, and I wasn't seeing it. I was seeing inconsistencies and problems in that. But they're working through them, and they did look impressive. So, yeah, full kudos to you, BC Lions. You probably deserve to be right up at the top or near the top of the power rankings. That was an impressive game. And Zach looks mighty ordinary behind an average O-line, I gotta say. It's, again, Zach's had 2 MOPs. How many have his line had? None. But you take away 2 of the starters on that line, and all of a sudden, Zach's not looking MOP anymore. I'm not really completely sold, though. As much as I give the credit to BC, I'm not sold on their pass protection. It was good. I don't think they gave up a sack in the game, but Winnipeg was playing with 2 rookies on the line on the D line after injuries. So we'll reserve judgment until maybe this week. Edmonton's got a fairly reasonable pass rush. See what they do against them. I did think for just a little while there, when was it, early second half, when Winnipeg suddenly made a good drive and put the touchdown in and a couple of really impressive catches, the part of me that still wants to believe in Winnipeg, and I have to admit I took Winnipeg over BC because I thought they were going to bounce back. I won't make that mistake again in my pick 'em. And Winnipeg doesn't get a pick until they win something, But I thought for a little while, like I said, that BC had actually woken up the bear. This is the Bombers that we know. But no, it was one drive, and then I don't know if they're a bear these days. They're kind of a sleepy panda bear. I think maybe one of my favorite parts of the game was actually from the announcers. There were a couple of people who, well, what we used to say, how did we used to put it? Took one in the nards. I think any male out there knows what it is as soon as that's said. Here's Glenn Suter trying to say that and talking about, well, there's certain parts of your body you can't grasp when they're hurt there and everything, and then it happened to 2 players, and he's trying to make it into something, and it's, sorry, Glenn, but it wasn't really working. But this is why Dustin Nielsen, he's probably the best announcer that they've got on for the CFL these days, because he pulled Glenn right out of it with, yep, been a bad night for the boys. So yeah, I think that's what. I will say this though, one of my football stories that I do like, from back in the day, not quite leather helmets. When I was playing way back when, we had a linebacker, a fella named Doug. Great player. I think he ended up getting some scholarship money down in the States and playing in like one of the Dakotas or something. But he was a very good player. But we're on the field, and he's out there and goes down and kind of gets up to the knee a bit and pats his helmet, waves him, I need somebody. So coach would say, okay, fine, send a replacement in for him. Now you got to understand, we've got our benches over here on one side, both teams, and then there's the field, and then on the other side is the stands, so nobody can see behind our benches. So there's Dougie, he's down, he's injured. As soon as the replacement starts on, he pops up and he runs off, he jogs off, and he's grinning and he's just looking perfect. and where nobody can figure why did he pull himself out of the game. Well, he gets to the line of all the players, he gets through, pushes us aside like this, he gets through us, and he collapses into a fetal position, moaning and crying. But he was not going to let the fans see what had happened to him. This is another great thing about football, stories that can last a lifetime. Let's see, what else do we got? Game 3, I guess. Nothing on that one, so we'll go on to Game 3, which was Edmonton and Toronto. I was a little annoyed, I gotta say, that Dukes and McMahon stole a couple of rushing touchdowns from Carey. Yeah, I know you could say he might not have got them, but they were rushing touchdowns. He's their main back. Keep giving it to Carey. I do care a little bit because I had him in fantasy, and he had a great game, but 2 extra touchdowns, that would have been something else. Anyway, what else did I get from there? Oh, I was impressed that Edmonton as a team hung with Toronto. You know, they were there right until the end, and they've been there every game this year, so they are a good team. But I'll tell you what's killing them, in my opinion, is it's some really questionable coaching decisions. You know, when to kick field goals, when not to, what sort of plays you're running, and as well as that, just the fact that when they get late in the game, late in the fourth or into that last 3 minutes that apparently they're now calling the 5th quarter. Anybody know math? Yeah, it's kind of like Douglas Adams. What was it? He had his book, So Long and Thanks for all the fish. That was it. The 5th book in the increasingly misnamed trilogy, he said. So, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. It's not the 5th quarter, but it is, I admit. It's a tough part of stuff, but that's it. You can see them tightening up, and they make mistakes. They made the contacting the kicker mistakes. They've thrown interceptions, and they're just trying too hard. They're playing really well enough to win, but then when it gets close, you can see where the losing has taken its toll. So, hopefully what we'll see is another loss in BC this week, and that will usher Mr. Jones, Coach Jones, off to his dinner on Delta, and we'll get someone to take over, and the team can actually start getting some good results for their efforts. They should be a much better team than their record shows. I know, you are what your record is, but they're looking good. Just not good enough. I did like DeMonte Coxey's celebration of mowing the lawn, but I feel like I've seen that before, and I didn't think it was him. Maybe it was. I'm not sure. Maybe it was, but I didn't think that was his. I thought I saw that in a celebration in a Western game last year or something. Don't know. It's rummaging around somewhere in there with all the other irrelevant facts that have taken up most of my memories. I thought it was a very nice gesture to Curly Gittens Jr. to get the touchdown and then give the ball to the cute little girl wearing his sweater. I do wonder, is that a $500 gift? Is the league still charging them for kicking or throwing the ball into the stands? Last year they said with the new chips it was going to be $500 per, so hopefully Curly's not too much later in his pocketbook for what was a very nice gesture. I gotta also ask in this game, though, late in the game, there was a PI on the Argos. They couldn't challenge it. They'd already used their challenge. But it was horse hockey. There was not enough there for it. That's my opinion. I know others may say differently. But in my opinion, and frankly, in the opinion of Rod Smith, talking around the same topic the next night, that can't be pass interference. You can't play defense if that's pass interference. And where was the control center? Toronto couldn't challenge it. They had used their challenge and lost. But I thought the control center was supposed to be coming in on these things that were obvious and redoing them. And you know, that thing was questionable at best and tip ball and all the rest of it. So it's part of why I hate the replays, is that they slow it down to ultra slow motion, and it takes all the human element out of the game. I've always felt, going to have replays? Okay, yeah, I like the idea of replays in general on a more limited basis. Trust the officials on the field. If they get it wrong, they get it wrong. It happens to everybody. So it's a level playing field for them. But if you need something where you got to go to replays or to challenges, that fine. The replay officials should only be able to watch it in real time, just like the ref or the original official did. If you can't tell in real time if a knee touched down before a ball was out, or if a DB got there a split second early on a pass for interference, then it shouldn't be overturning the calls on the field anyway. It keeps the human element in the game. So yeah, if you want to do replays, and again, that control center stuff, they're still doing it. Am I the only one? I haven't heard anybody else even mention it. It annoys me. I don't get the point, and it seems to me like it's a typical CFL. We'll try to do something different, but only go halfway, because we don't want to have any controversy. We don't want to hear anyone hear what the people in that room are saying, because then people might complain, you know. If you're going to do it, go whole hog. Give them mics. Give us a picture of what they're seeing from just behind them, not from the way back of the room, and let us hear how that decision-making turns out. Then we'll have a more informed thing, and that would enhance the game. But this stuff, just stop it. I said it before, I'll say it again. Just stop it. Oh, it sounds like the puppies are going crazy. I apologize for the news and for the noise in the background. I'm guessing that the goddess is returning home, and they spotted that and are at the door. Hopefully it doesn't overwhelm this too much. Alrighty, back to it. Where we're going. Now, I also noticed in the game, I found it kind of ironic how much MBT has played in BMO, and the fact that they talk about the fact the turf is different in the end zones than on the field because of soccer. And yeah, he got bit by it when he was supposed to be mounting his game-winning drive. He slipped and didn't go so well. I would have thought he would have remembered that little bit of home field advantage in BMO, but apparently not. And at that, that's like I was talking about the bad decisions on either the coaching or on his part. You got about a minute and a half left. You've got a chance to get some yardage, get within field goal range, and win the game. And you throw two long passes that are low percentage throws. You only take 13 seconds off the clock, and then you give it back to Toronto in excellent range, and they basically just have, like I said earlier, run three running plays and a field goal for a nice game-winning drive. You know, that's a stat for Dukes. Keep in mind in the future when they talk about it, it's not always that a game-winning drive isn't always a great quarterback achievement. Did I have anything else here? Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh no, actually, I did. I quite enjoyed the fact that at one point, I think it was halftime, Paul LaPolice was interviewing Eugene Lewis, and while they're talking about, and LaPolice starts talking about MBT, McLeod, Bethel, Thompson, Macbeth, all of this, how he can make every throw in the book, and how great it is to be playing with him. And isn't it great to be playing with him in that? And while they're doing that, the replays they show are a bunch of misses where you can't quite get it right near enough Eugene Lewis for even him to catch it. And that man's got a huge catch radius. So, like I said before, maybe it's a pet peeve of mine, but let's not give the quarterbacks more credit than they deserve. And that's, I think, that should take care of that. So that takes us on to the Sunday night game. Hamilton at Saskatchewan. A bit of a blowout again. And then we've had, I'm hoping all of you have seen it. Like I said, I'm not doing the recaps, but the Riders lose Trevor Harris just at the end of the half. And appears he's going to be okay, all the words say. He was even back with a brace on, ready to go in the second half, but they were lucky enough that the defense kept Hamilton in check, and Patterson moved the offense just enough to get things done. And with some help of some bad decisions on Hamilton, it was a relatively easy victory. But first thing I would say about the game, though, is I thought it was a tremendous celebration for life for Darren Detition and John Hobson, Dutchie and JH, as I say, Hopsy. The riders did that well. I know a lot of teams are bringing in, former stars to add some punch to the home opener. I don't think that would have been appropriate with the year with who we lost in Ryderville. Who they've lost in Ryderville. Yes, impartial, don't forget. And I got to say, it was great. It was moving. And what I loved the best was that for Jim Hobson, instead of a moment of silence, they had a moment of celebration. They had everybody cheering and roaring and having great fun. And everything I've heard, never was lucky enough to meet the man, but everything I've heard about him tells me that would have been about right. And again, it was a 16-point win. There were flaws in it, but it was pretty nice. So for those of you who believe in some sort of thing after we all shuffle off this mortal coil, you can probably picture Dutchie and Hobson enjoying a heavenly pill somewhere and looking down and going, yeah, good start. What else did I have? Oh, the one bad thing about this game, the officiating was terrible. It was terrible. I can talk about some. There was one, I mentioned this in the CKRM Rider post-game show, like I said, with Justin Dunk and Wes Cates. At one point, so better get this straight, George. At one point, Edmonton had the ball. I thought it was on the 1 yard line. The Riders, Miles Brown came bursting up the middle and just stuffed Butler for a 4 yard loss. Shut that down, the chances of them getting in at all. Hell of a play. Something else. But the Riders had two players who were across off the white into the green in front of the goal line. That's an obvious offside to me, and they never called it. Now on the show, Wes Cates said that he thought that they were actually not right on the one. They had about 4 or 5 inches before it, which left them some leeway. Okay, I said, I might be wrong on that one. I'll accept that. Okay, it didn't look to me like it was off the one, but it could be. So, principle of charity, I'll accept that one. Later on in the game, there's a sequence. The Riders, Micah Johnson, makes a play on a screenplay and holds on to the receiver and gets called for interference, as he should have. So we've got a first down for Hamilton. First down for Hamilton on that. On that first down, they take a run to the left, and Marcus Sales comes up and makes a hell of a tackle, but gets hurt. And he's injured, and he's down for a few minutes. So I get that there was something there. But that's first down for no yards. They come back and on the field, and they don't say second down. They say 1st and 10 again. I don't get it. In the end, it didn't matter because the Riders took a roughing penalty on the next play, which would have been the second down one, and they would have gotten another first down. But still, you can't know that as an official. You got to know what you're doing. And the worst thing about it is this back and forth with the command center over should the ball be here or here or here. Make a decision, make it right, and just get it done. 5 minutes of that, the one time, and then a bunch of others that were 30 seconds to a minute, it felt like, against both teams. Not bad or favoring one team. It's painful to watch. So if you're going to have that there, simplify it, get it down, and don't let it get in the way of the game. Let's see. I did also, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I got a kick out of it. I even might put down the time, 4:52 in the second quarter. Hamilton had about 3 guys go offside by a lot, a real lot. And my favorite part of it was Albright's reaction as the D end on one side for the Riders. You could see him he's down ready to go, and there goes the receiver, and he's sort of, oh, hey, You can't. Can you do that? You can't do that. It was fun. We also saw that even the best make their mistakes. I think it's pretty well acknowledged that Roland Milligan's one of the best halfbacks in the CFL. Probably by far the best defensive back that the Riders have, and he just was caught looking in the backfield on that first touchdown. It was he never even reacted. Let the guy just run by him wide open. I get it. They're long games, and everybody's going to make mistakes. So just when you're ranking on the rookies or somebody else for doing something that seems dumb, keep in mind it's a tough game, and even the best of the people sometimes get burnt. The officiating wasn't just bad in this game. They've been inconsistent in what they call. One night there'll be a call or a challenge for interference, and the next night it won't be. And back and forth like that. If you're going to, do the officials not watch each other in the game? At least in the command center, do they not work together? Because some of these are challenged, and one is an interference and the other one isn't, although they're identical sorts of plays. So, and even Rod Smith said at one point there that you shouldn't be calling these things pass interference. And Rod knows his football. He's been calling the games for a long time. Shouldn't do that. It makes it impossible for the defense to play if you're calling things too tight. So again, like I said earlier, you do it in real time or whatever, but get consistent on it. This is getting really frustrating, seeing whatever. In fact, I think it was in the Sunday night game that Rod said you couldn't call that. That would be that was it. It was Saskatchewan called the challenge on interference, and we're told no, it wasn't interference. And Rod was saying, well, you can't call that because it would set a precedent and you'd have to call every close one. But it was the night before in Toronto and Edmonton that Edmonton challenged one, and they did call it on Toronto, just as close. So the precedent had already been set the night before, but precedents don't mean anything to the CFL officials. They just go on and call whatever they want. That's me being harsh, isn't it? How about the Rider fans can celebrate because the Riders are launching their new super weapon, number 80, a Joe. Man, that young man is going to turn some heads. I hope we get him here in this league for 2 or 3 years before he makes big money down south. Clint Rakovich for the Riders, the superback, is certainly improving as a fullback. I had my doubts about him in the first game, but everyone he's getting better, and had the only sort of longish run that AJ had, I think it was about 12 or 15 yards, was mostly set open by a beautiful block by Clint. So it's nice to see that going. And what else did we see? Oh, Patterson, the backup for the Riders, who everybody loves, got in the game and had to be a backup quarterback in a tough game. And now all of a sudden people don't love him so much. It's a fickle bunch in Riderville. Now, I will say I thought he played a fairly good game all round, and you could see him getting settled down some more. But the one thing that I think anyway was they ran the quarterback draw down near the end zone there, and he got tackled, I think, for a loss. But the point was he just took like 2 steps back and ran and then darted forward. If he'd had a little more patience on that, if he'd actually taken a 3-step and like it was getting to be a run, there was a whole opening there, and I think the line would have had time to get it through. So next time, hopefully he'll remember that. I will say though that I think it was still on that one that they ended up, or was it? Starting to get these all running together after 5 weeks of preseason and football. Which was it? Anyway, whichever drive it was, right at the end there, they ended up down on the 1 yard line. The Riders are on the 1 yard line, up by 2 scores. Any score would make it a 3-score game. They were up by 16, so any score would make it a 3-score game. Easy thing to do would have been kick the field goal, but things can go wrong in field goals. Snaps can go wrong, stuff like that. I love the fact Coach Mace had the faith in his O-line to say, no, just grind it in there. And they did. Nice touchdown, nice move by Patterson. He was stopped short, but some second effort, and he got in there. And that a coach that does that, a team will walk through walls for. I swear, they will. I did wonder, a couple of thoughts about AJ on this, and I know there's more here about the Riders than the Hamilton, but let's face it, Hamilton didn't have too many bright spots. So AJ, I'm wondering, is he dinged up a bit, or is he just channeling James Brown? Because he was getting up a little slow through most of that game, and James, if you remember watching him, if you've been lucky enough to see any of the old footage of him, he was a hell of a running back, but he always got up like there was almost nothing left in him. Like he'd given his all and was ready to just fall down. And he said, I know that I'm the feature of this team. If I go out there and the defense sees that I get hurt, it gives them a huge lift. So if I get up slow every time, they don't know if I'm hurt or if it's just me again. And I'm thinking maybe AJ's learning that. When you run like he does, you take a lot of hits. So yeah, don't let it make it easy on the defense to tell where you're at. And then the other thing was, if you saw towards the end of the game, they had a shot of Trevor and AJ on the sidelines together. And I thought it was very nice that with all the money that AJ's making and all the time and effort he puts into his training and his everything else, that he still has time to be Trevor's valet. Let's see. Oh, yes, this is another one. The last comment on this game is, you can tell the Riders' defense has been practicing their tip drills. Two of those interceptions there, they were manufactured by the defense. The DBs weren't just going up and batting the ball away. They were batting it, tipping it specifically to their own players in the right positions. Yeah, that bodes well for them for the season. If they can do that, that should be a good year. So that's just about it for the games. Agree, disagree, but that's why I saw the week. Next week should be some fairly interesting stuff. I did go 3-0 and pick them again, so I'm, 9-3 for the year. Haven't checked my fantasy stuff yet, but I started out with, I think, a 122 the first week, and I was 150 something last week. Couldn't believe it. I'm pretty sure I'll be reverting to the norm this week, because I had Keenan Schaefer-Baker, who didn't do much, and I had Armstead, who didn't particularly do a whole lot of stuff, and I had Fletcher, who didn't do a lot of stuff either. Now I had Vernon, and I had I had the Toronto defense, which I don't think is got a lot of points. I had Vernon, which should be worth some. Had Tyson, which should be worth some there, but other than that, yeah. And then I picked the wrong BC receiver. I said, okay, well, it's going to be Hollins or McGinnis that'll go off on this, and I picked McGinnis, and look what Hollins did: 200 and some yards and a bunch of touchdowns. Not that I'm bitter, I just wish they could play to make it good for me. Anyway, everyone's raving about the fact that not this week, but the week before, in the first of the home and home games, Bo and Trevor teamed up together for 775 yards, which is an impressive amount of passing in a game. I got to admit that. But I'll also point out to everyone, remind everyone that my favorite for the CFL quarterback GOAT is Matty Dunnigan. And back on, when was it, July 14th, 94, in a game win over the Eskimos, he threw for 723 yards on his own. So, good for good for Trevor and Bo, but let's not forget what Matty was capable of in his day. Yeah, so that's just about it. Well, I guess that's sort of the first of the random thoughts, actually. So we'll go into a few others. It was a bad week for coach's decision. Winnipeg with their time management at the end of the half. Edmonton with those two long throws when they needed to march and control the clock and the field to get in field goal range. Hamilton with that onside kick with like 6 or 7 minutes left in the game. it's not great. And now I don't subscribe to the idea that a lot of people do of saying, well, if they only lost by 3 points. If they'd got those 2 field goals, they would have won the game. Well, no, that's not true. You can't say about what would have been, because if the score was different, the strategies for both teams would be different. So you can't do that. But it's definitely, the teams aren't being helped by some of the coach. Some of the teams are not being helped by some of the coaching decisions being made. Let's see, what else do we have? Anything here? Oh yeah, Bo took a paycheck to come back and show that he's got it and can still be the Bo that he was. And well, I don't know that he's earning his that cut salary, because hey, Bo is back, and it's not in a good way. I did like the fact that in the post-game scrum, Coach Mace for Saskatchewan talked about the fact that they had the game, the possibility of a storm and the game possibly being shut down in as part of their planning, about how they wanted to strike early and have a lead, so that if it got to a point where the game was called and it was a final, whatever the score was final, they wanted to be ahead. So it's nice, smart coaching there. And staying on that same sort of theme, I got to say, Justin Dunk with the Riders is just crushing it not with the Riders, Justin Dunk of the 3 Down Nation, who is now also doing the Riders pregame and postgame shows, is just crushing it. Great job there, Dustin. Great stuff. I kind of noticed that, like, at this time of year, or was it 2 years ago, I can't even remember, everybody was screaming about the new designated American rule. Has it actually made a difference in the game? I don't think so. I think it was much ado about nothing. I don't see any up or down or anything on it. And, whatever. A couple other post-game media avails. Coach Milanovic, who was very, very coachy and taking this all on me. This was on me. I didn't have them ready to go. I didn't have a good game plan. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Very much so. It's a hell of an effort. Really, you can see what the between the lines is. So nobody talk about Bo or Tim. Nobody talk about what's happening there and the fact that they're just don't appear to live in the same world. No, it's all on Milanovic. We'll see next week. Coach did when he got to Toronto in his media avail. I don't think this was after the game. I think this was after the practice that I saw this one. But really, I think he's slowly morphing into Captain Highliner over time. And not the new sexy one, like the old guy. Did I say this already? I used to think that bad football was better than no football. But then the American leagues, spring leagues down in the States, they cured me of that. Bad football can sometimes be bad football. Also noticed that there's been a lot of people in the last while losing it over the fact that Coach Campbell out in BC is letting VA do the short yardage sneaks. How can he possibly do that? Doesn't he know? I disagree with it completely. And I'm just wondering how many of the people doing this have a better win-loss record than Coach Campbell. Maybe we should figure he knows what he's talking about. I also reference to the 2 and Out podcast with Travis and Sheldon. A message for Sheldon here. I get the feeling you guys are probably in your mid to possibly late 30s. I'm not sure. But you said at one point that when you were picking games and whatnot, you said you were starting to feel good about the Riders, and you don't know why, but starting to believe. Now let me say, I'll break the fourth wall here. I know it's hard to believe because I come across as completely impartial in these episodes, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to rule it fair regardless. But outside of them, I am a bit of a Riders fan and have been for a long time. So what you're feeling there, Sheldon, that's something we call hope. In your 30s, you've probably been watching since the early thousands, and there's been some ups and downs, but not like it used to be back in the day, where things were not good for the Riders football team, and yet fans, some fans were fair weather and went away, but a lot of them stayed there. And then just so that any little bit, anything that you see, anything that maybe, any hope. Yes, okay, this looks like it's it. And the hope is what kills you. Because they've had, what is it, 4, I think? I think 4 Grey Cups for the Riders. And every other year where that hope is showing up, they end up ripping your living heart out and showing it to you beating. But enjoy the hope for now, because that's what we live on. Okay, I did hear this week that well, it wasn't said that there was a conflict, but the information I was given sort of gave me the feeling there might be a conflict out in BC between Mr. Dolman, the owner, and the coaches. They were talking about the fact that Mr. Dolman wants to bring people in, and he's doing this. He's bringing people in from the interior of BC and from the island on coaches and everything like that, on buses, getting them together. So he wants earlier games, 4 o'clock starts on the weekends whenever he can, because that gives them time to get there and then get back home afterwards. Whereas the coaches, I'm pretty sure, always want a 7 o'clock game because it's been a big advantage to them. Anybody coming from the east is starting a football game at 10 o'clock, and that's hard to do. So I appreciate the marketing and all that, and he's the owner, so he'll win out, but it may not be the best football strategy. I will pat myself on the back a bit here, too. Yeah. Back in the first episode, in the preseason, I talked about the Canadian receivers we've got in this league, how it's the golden age of Canadian receivers, and I'm not going to go through all that again, but you listen to everybody else talk, and all of a sudden we're 3 games into the season, and everybody's raving about the crop of Canadian receivers we have. So, just nice to call it, to see where it's going before it becomes a popular sort of theme with stuff. And on that, Keandre Smith with Hamilton, I owe you an apology. When I was naming the ones that were amongst the best, I somehow forgot about you, and I shouldn't have. That's not fair. You are up there with the others I listed who deserve name mentions as great Canadian receivers. Keep it up, young man. I like it. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. I think I'm supposed to remind you that you should rate and review, share and subscribe, anything else, I'm not on the social medias, so I don't get a chance to promote myself a whole lot other than through the email here. You can get a hold of me there. But anything else you've been doing, there are getting to be some more eyes on the casts and that. So please keep it up. Do whatever you can to send some people this way. If they don't like it, they can just toss it aside. But it turns out some of you are enjoying my point of view on this, and I'm going to keep it coming. So thank you very much. And until next week, get the hell off my lawn.